one thing you said, and this is, if boundaries were crossed growing up as a kid, it's so hard, right? If you're growing up and you're like, don't do this, and somebody crosses that and it's an adult, it's tough, right?
Yep.
But this is where I say this frequently. I always say you can't live in the suck. We all had crappy things that happened to us. I don't know a single person. If you are somebody who has not had trauma, who has not had major stuff, people mentioning trauma a lot on here, I'd be shocked, right? All of us have had trauma. Some of them are minor. Some of them are ones that it breaks my heart, and I don't know that I could pray enough for all the things these people went through.
Yeah.
All of us have had something to some degree. But my theory, and maybe this is naive or something, but I'm always like, it's a choice to live in the suck. And I say that to clients all the time. I'm like, how long are you going to live in the suck? Because I can't do anything with you until we decide to move out of the suck, right? But I think boundaries are a lot of that. Like, yes, all this happened. Yes, it did. And that is why we are the way we are. But we also have the gift to be able to change who we are. Does that mean you might lose some friends? Yep. I for sure lost people. I did. But my thought is, if I put a boundary in place that's reasonable, right? I'm not saying I won't be your friend unless you write me a check for $5 million. Like, if I'm putting a reasonable boundary in place and you are unwilling to observe the boundary, I think you've really got to ask yourself, or I've got to ask myself, is this somebody I really want? But you've got to be honest and say, hey, this is how I feel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting as we get older. You'll see this someday, young whippersnapper. You will, but it's true. But we learn it. We all know it. I mean, even in 30s, and even you guys listen that are in your 20s. I'm pretty sure, and I'm looking at some of the comments rolling in, and I know a lot of you guys personally. So we've got mix of ages here. So I'm really curious at what age you feel, and it may be TBD, but what age you feel like you started to go, okay, I've really got to pay attention to this? When did you start paying attention to some boundaries?
I feel like it was catapulted. Accelerated is probably the right word. For me, the year I turned 35.
Okay. What made it accelerate? Because Heidi just had a good point. She said she would give, and it wasn't reciprocated. Like pouring from an empty cup was the example. And that's so true, because I feel like at some point something goes, I can't do this anymore.
Well, and to Heidi's point, you do that. And for me, that's probably when I realized, look, and I'm not saying go out into the world and just be me, because that doesn't get you anywhere. Well, then you're a taker.
Either. That's not good either.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is a balance there. But what I have noticed is you've got to pick up on those cues of when you are dealing with a taker.
Yes.
So that again, when and where to put the boundary in, because I think the core of that is for some situations, some people throughout life, no matter what you do, no matter what you give, no matter how you adapt, it's not necessarily going to change the outcome of it.
Because some people just suck. Say it, Whitney. Say it.
Some people suck.
They do, right?
It's true.
And we got to,
I think good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad it's cathartic for you. But I feel like with a lot of this is we've got to, what this keeps coming up in my head or bringing up in my head is we have to be very in tune to us and how we're feeling. Yeah. And we have to be really super honest with ourselves. Yeah. And that's easy to do in retrospect, but not always easy to do.
Well, and that kind of made me think of the text conversation you and I were having last night about that new book that I picked up.
Yes.
Which is, kind of echoes what you were saying. He took it from a time standpoint of one of the quotes in the book is he's saying it like every bad decision he ever made was when he was in a hurry.